Welcome to Oilers Nation Every Day with your hosts, Tyler and Liam.
Well, did not expect to be talking to you guys right now, but the Edmonton Oilers have made another trade acquiring Jason Dickinson and Colton Dach from the Chicago Blackhawks. Does Stan Bowman know there are other teams in the NHL? Who cares? They've got two more players. Andrew Mangiapane is out the door along with a first-round pick. Welcome into Oilers Nation Every Day and Evening edition. Tyler will be around shortly, but he is currently at curling practice. So instead, we have Michael Menzies joining us for the first 10 minutes of the show. Michael, great backdrop. Obviously, breaking news, the Edmonton Oilers have acquired Jason Dickinson and Colton Dach. We discussed pre-show, but give us your initial thoughts on what you think of this deal.
Well, I'm sort of two minds about it. I think there are a lot of things to like. Certainly Dickinson's strengths are areas that the Oilers are weak in, which is the defensive side of the puck. And there's a lot of, positive numbers indicating that Dickinson is, an elite defensive center. And the Oilers, we've heard, talked about, the third line center role. Is that an area where they can, pull the trigger for a big name, or is it going to be one of these, I guess, less acclaimed names that they go after? And Dickinson kind of, fits into that role. So there's lots of positivity for how it will improve this year's team. I think there's no question about that. Where, my stomach kind of gets in knots is just a little bit of the Stan Bowman asset management piece of things, because it's a first round pick in order to get the Blackhawks to retain and take Andrew Mangiapane, which has just been a swing and the miss out of the gates. So, there's kind of a lot going on here, but certainly the roster gets better today. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are unsure, not necessarily about the player. I think the players are fine. I think people are happy that the Oilers went out and got Jason Dickinson. I think if you've watched the Edmonton Oilers play this season at all, you're very aware that they needed a third line center, and they leak goals every single night. I saw a tweet earlier today, in close to 50% of the games, the Oilers have allowed 4 or more goals, and they've played, what is that now, 4 different goaltenders throughout this run. It's pretty clear that goaltending is clearly still a problem in Edmonton. There's no denying that. But also defensively responsible players. And the Oilers don't have enough of them. And Stan Bowman went out and acquired 2 of them, one of them obviously being Connor Murphy the other day. And now Jason Dickinson, who, again, was a key contributor to the Chicago Blackhawks penalty kill. And that's another area where the Oilers have completely fallen off a cliff recently. And then obviously, the news of Curtis Lazar coming out of the lineup for the next month at least is probably a more significant blow than I think it'll get credit for. He's quite good in the face-off, Lazar, and also a penalty killer for the team. But obviously a first-round pick in this deal, Menzies. What do you make of the acquisition price of being first-round pick along with Mangiapane, who was obviously a dead asset for the Oilers at this point?
Yeah, well, I just don't think one can kind of be linked from the other one. Look, I'm sure Stan Bowman tried to trade Mangiapane for the last couple months. And what I mean? And tried a variety of different avenues and see, what about this way? What about that way? Look, the writing was on the wall here about what it would take. Also, look at what the prices are right now. I mean, yesterday, I kind of raised my eyebrows. A second round pick for McCarron that Minnesota, trades in order to get him, and you're thinking, okay, this is along the line. So you add that Chicago is retaining 50% of Dickinson, so it's 2.125, I believe, is his cap hit, and you're also getting Colton Dach, which is not nothing. Plus, you're getting rid of Mangiapane. I think it is, maybe a little on the steeper end, but I also think, if you look at Murphy, that was maybe on the lighter end overall. But if you package it all together, Dickinson 50% retained, Murphy 50% retained, Dach for a conditional first that's top 12 protected, Mangiapane in a second. And all these different mock draft or mock trades that people were doing, was sort of combination that was kind of like this, whether it was going to be with Toronto or whether it was going to be with Chicago or Nashville. It was going to be something like this. So this probably comes out to what people were expecting to go at the deadline. But there's no term on Dickinson. There's no term on Murphy at the moment. So we'll have to see. Obviously the games will be played and they'll have to figure that out later. So we'll see.
Yeah, I really couldn't care less about a first round pick right now, to be honest, in Oilers terms. But I also understand the people who might be upset thinking that, like, maybe you should get more for a first round pick. But what I would say is, like, just go get the assets you actually need to make your team better and take it over the line. And I think the way you laid it out then, with all three of those players in the deal, obviously they were two separate deals, but we all kind of conform them into one. Doesn't really matter. It still looks solid, and the Oilers use basically the same amount of assets, if not maybe a couple less, if you want to count guys like LaChance and Max Warner as what they did last season. And you can talk about Trent Frederick all you want. Obviously, that has not worked out to the Oilers' advantage, but Jake Wallman in a slump now was really solid for them in the playoffs. There's no denying that. I thought he had a strong run, and the Oilers, they don't really have any room to do anything else. You can see here on the screen right now, their cap space is minus 300,000, but as Puckpedia lays out, they can put Lazar and LTIR. You can send Dach down. They could even send Szymanski down too if they wanted to really make some kind of impact on this team, and then maybe call up someone of lesser value. The math isn't my thing. That's a Yaremchuk thing, but maybe there is still room for them to do one more trade. Or do you think this is kind of them shutting the door on the trade deadline for the season?
Well, you don't think Darnell Nurse is getting? You don't think that's happening? The Oilers may not be the team to watch on Friday. Who knows? I mean, it's silly season, so maybe there's a stunner. But this, would seem to be their business here of the deadline. You touched on it with Lazar. So post game, Knobloch says a week. Today it's like, well, 4 weeks is probably what the Lazar injury timeline is. So that's not significant to this, because Lazar has become just about an everyday player for this team. I think he's only been scratched, 5 times since Christmas. So Lazar is, function well in that 4C role. So again, Henrique, how has his foot speed here been down the stretch? Never mind, he hasn't scored since October 23rd. Szymanski, we like what we're seeing from Szymanski, but is he ready to take on that role, full time? I think he's going to be required here down the stretch. But this center depth, I mean, you could even have a question here about whether they look to still drop Nuge to the third line. There seemed to be every resistance to doing so, but at least bringing in a center like Dickinson, you can at least, okay, Lazar's out, maybe you put Dickinson in. And again, you're not losing anything from the roster that you had in on Tuesday, for example, and you're able to fulfill and get a 12 forward and a 13th forward with Dach that was a second-round pick in 2021, which wasn't that long ago, and it seems to be a hitting machine out on the ice. So I think he's 10th in the league in hits, and Dickinson was 4th on the Blackhawks and amongst forwards and penalty kill minutes played. So some of these areas where the Oilers weren't as strong and trying to get better at penalty kill, play away from the puck, these seem to be the areas that Stan Bowman is checking off here with today's trade, but also with Murphy on Monday.
Taking a look at the chat right now, if you've got some thoughts, drop them in there. Tyler will join us as well shortly. Tyler Mulick is in. Do we still add Kirby, that being Kirby Dach? We're on a third line of Dach, Dickinson, and Dach. I was just off the other day. I was on the Kirby Dach train. I should have just said Colton Dach, and I would look like an absolute genius. Frank is
this looking ahead for a Dach for Hudson trade?
Hey, why not? reunite them. They both played on the Blackhawks for one. Did they? I don't actually know if they played together for the Blackhawks. I think Kirby was traded as they drafted him. Maybe 1 year they crossed over.
Yeah, I think their timeline's just missed, but
Yeah.
that I think people are going to draw those lines and parallels here.
Why not? I think I think Kirby Dach and Quinn Hudson are actually the same age. If Kirby Dach maybe only a year older, 2 older than him, which would be quite funny. Frankie is in and says, people hating on these trades have no idea what they're talking about. Connor Murphy is a 96 EV defense, and Dickinson is 97 on defense. Both a completely elite PKers. Somebody's been reading those Jay Fresh graphics, I can see. D is in and says it doesn't matter. He made a few comments. First one was, Bowman is a joke. This guy isn't making the Oilers better, and he is giving away our future. He also had a comment further up saying the Oilers don't develop any players anyway, so what does it matter? For what it's worth. D also said that Donald Nurse was the Oilers' best left shot defenseman, so consider all his comments with that one. Here's a tweet from Drew Livingston. Traded away Stan Bowman and the Oilers this season. A first, third, second, 2 seconds. Stuart Skinner, Brett Kulak, Andrew Mangiapane. They've added Spencer Stasny, Tristan Jarry, Samuel Poulin, Connor Murphy, Jason Dickinson, and Colton Dach. Menzies, I'll ask you, grade this. What is your grade on what Stan Bowman has done overall in the trade market? It's obviously been a very active season for him. What would that be? That's 4 trades he's made.
Yeah, I would. It'd be in the B's, I think, because so far what's pulling it down is the whole. It's the Jari Skinner trade that included Kulak. You had this defensive piece that then you had to go out and acquire, and in the meantime, there were 2 second-round picks that you fall out of here. And again, look, if the Oilers win the cup, then they're not super concerned about picks. But you do have, these are your assets, these are your trading chips, and so you do have to pay mind. And I just think that like we've talked about a lot about the off season, the Oilers will have a whole lot more flexibility. I can't say that my trust meter on the Oilers having more money, what that'll mean. Like, I can't say that's like the highest, but Bowman, I think, has been able to skirt around some mistakes here in the last couple of days. He's obviously paying a price with a first in order to get out of the Mangiapane thing that hasn't worked. So I think that has a lot to say, too, about what the pro scouting is and whether these players, whether they're fits or not. Because, again, this team, look, we know what their final aspirations are, but right now don't currently resemble a Stanley Cup contender. They want to get there. They hope these pieces will help them get there, but, are still doing some standings watching. And that's just a problem with the Oilers overall this year. We're waiting to see this switch get flipped and them to come alive and resemble a team that takes the Pacific Division, which is just begging to be taken. But can they string together some consistency?
Nobody wants to win the Pacific Division this season. Even Vegas. Gregor had that quote the other day on the rundown of saying they haven't beat a team in a playoff spot. I think it was last week, whoever the teams were, since November 20th. And I went back and looked. They've played, I believe it's 11 or 12 teams during that frame. It's not like they've not played any of them. They just haven't been winning those games. As of today, and right in this moment, the Oilers are currently 2 points off first place in the Pacific Division, with the Vegas Golden Knights on Sunday coming up, and obviously Carolina tomorrow. I think on this team right now, I think you're right. Like, the Jari stuff is just really dragging this team down, and the overall thoughts on Bowman. I also, too, someone makes a good comment in the chat. Cab says Ingram, graded Ingram as well. Obviously, Ingram was traded to Edmonton for future considerations, and they got a bit of retention on it. I think that should be considered in all of this too, and we will wait and see what Murphy and Dickinson will do. But I don't think this team was perfect to start the season. I do think a lot of these trades have become necessary. You can argue again until you're all blue in the face. The Jari deal is kind of what it is right now, and it's definitely again the one that's dragging them all down. But I think overall, I would probably give it a C plus, B minus. But I think that grade is more than can willingly go higher as long as Dickinson and Murphy can elevate here a little bit. Menzies, I'll give you one more question because Tyler has just rolled in. What is the craziest thing you suspect will happen in the next, what are we now, probably just shy of 48 hours? Whatever it is. I'm not a math guy.
I don't know. Vegas does something out of completely left field. That would be my guess, having no knowledge of, just pure speculation. That's been Vegas's MO for how many years here? They are probably laughing and thinking the same thing, like, man, we aren't any good either. We're still first in this division. You know what I mean? And every player in the league seemingly wants to come and play here. So do they have something big up their sleeve? And that's been one thing with Vegas. Well, the Oilers are getting names that, yeah, they may be useful. They're not flashy names. Vegas has been able to acquire big names. And so whoever that is, I'm not sure. If it's Ryan O'Reilly, I might cry. But what do you do? So we'll see. Yeah. We'll see. I just hope something happens Friday, because a lot of big pieces went off the big board here today for our friend Boardsy, who traveled far and long today to Toronto for a big show, and no Parayko, and maybe Robert Thomas will wait till Friday. Who knows?
Well, still waiting to see. I want to speculate on that one to see what gets across the line. But Menzies, thanks for joining me briefly here. Again, love the background. Great little room tour before we went live. The Giampa jersey is great. We'll see you in the office tomorrow, buddy.
Yeah, thanks so much. Let's go.
See you later. All right, we're bringing in the big dog. Oh, right on.
Release me.
Tyler, you're back from curling. How'd it go? Are you going to the Briar?
Yeah, we might go for the Briar. The boys were dialed in. Appreciate you filling some time while I got back home. Stan Bowman trading a first-round pick for Jason Dickinson makes me want to.
Oh,
makes me want to drink, Liam. I can't believe you're giving this as good of a grade as you are. What did you say? B minus?
Sorry, that was for the overall season, like all the trades together. I said C plus, by the way. You're not happy with this trade?
I'm not. And listen, okay. I guess the context and maybe where I shouldn't be as upset is, and like Gregor tweeted at me earlier, like, hey, Michael McCarron cost a second-round pick. Michael McCarron is nowhere near as good as someone like a Jason Dickinson. But I think if you would have told Oilers fans at the start of this deadline period, hey, you're trading a first and a second-round pick over the course of the next week, I don't think they would have been super thrilled with Connor Murphy and Jason Dickinson, would they have?
No, and I think the names are fair, but I think if you had told them, hey, you're bringing in two really good defensive players and they're going to fill two big holes in your lineup, I think that would kind of sway things a little bit. I just think at the end of the day, like, this team was so desperate to bring in some players that could actually have defensive thoughts in their games that I don't hate it as much. And maybe the McCarron thing does boost it a little bit higher just in my own eyes because of how shitty that deal was. It kind of makes sense of this. I mean, Dach is obviously a throw-in to kind of like just give them another piece. And he is an NHL player. I think he probably is a bit more of a tweener than people want to admit. But some of the stuff I've seen is like he's kind of like Matthias Janmark in a way, similar metrics. I mean, we all love Janmark. Most people love Janmark. And I think it's fine. Like, so that's what I would say. Like, I think they needed the players of this style, and I don't hate it. And there's one trade I keep thinking of, and it goes back to Bowman again. But do you remember who their key piece was in 2015 when they won the cup? And again, like teams that were very different. But do you remember the player?
Was it Vermette?
It was Antoine Vermette. And I don't think Jason Dickinson is necessarily an Antoine Vermette, but I think they paid a first-round pick for that guy, and the outcome was a Stanley Cup. And the year before that, maybe even the same year, they went and got Johnny Oduya, and that was like a second round pick, third round pick, whatever. Like, my point is, like, Bowman has proven through his cup runs with Chicago, and I know that's over like 10 years ago, and the league is so different that, like, it doesn't have to be the flashiest names. It can just be the pieces that fit the puzzle that work the best.
And listen, that's fair. So, like, I think, and I see there's a lot of you in the chat who like it. And I see someone who goes, Tyler's never happy. I mean, that's not true. I loved the Connor Murphy deal. Like, the Connor Murphy deal was great. I give Stan credit all the time for the Podkolzins and the Embersons and all of that stuff. I like the Stasny deal. Like, it's not like I hate Stan Bowman. I don't want to hate Stan Bowman. I always want to go into these moves with an open mind and being willing to give him credit. And I like Jason Dickinson as a fit. I think getting one of the better defensive bottom six forwards in the NHL is, kind of exactly what this team needed. But let's look at why this cost them a first-round pick. It cost them a first-round pick because Andrew Mangiapane is an albatross contract 6 months after you signed him. So do we really want to sit here and give Stan Bowman credit because he had to give up a first. He had to get rid of Mangiapane. Okay, that's a Stan Bowman problem. Like, it's a knock on Bowman that he had to give up a first to get out of that contract, right? I don't know. It's annoying to me. I don't want to heap praise on him for this deal. Again, if it was we traded our 2028 second for Murphy, if this was the 2027 second straight across for Dickinson, I'd sit here and say, hey, you gave up a couple of first-round picks. You filled a couple of needs. Like, good on you. You kept your powder dry for the most part while improving your team. But a first-round pick is a major asset. Your first-round pick this year is now also no longer protected, which, I mean, listen, if you miss the playoffs this year, everyone should probably just get fired anyways. So, whatever. Maybe Stan Bowman doesn't care, but it's another layer of risk that you've taken on in this deal. I don't hate the piece of Colton Dach, and I was reading a little bit about him before you brought me on. The sense I see from the numbers people and the scouting people is like, maybe he at his very high end can be a Patrick Maroon light, but I don't think he's got Vasily Podkolzin kind of game in him. Like, I don't think he's that kind of player. He's never shown he's that kind of player. Like, this is a fine deal, but it's an overpay because of a previous mistake that Stan Bowman has made. So I'm not going to sit here and give him a passing grade for this trade because, again, you had to overpay for a guy like Jason Dickinson just to make this happen. And you know what? I will say this. If Nicholas Waugh ends up going somewhere for a first-round pick and Bobby McMahon is a first and a prospect, like, let's see what some other prices are tomorrow. But in my opinion, to jump the deadline, to go get out of it 48 hours before the trade deadline, pay these prices for this kind of a move, it's mildly disappointing.
I was going to ask you that because there was a report that the Maple Leafs held strong to, like, we want a first round pick for Waugh, and I think Dickinson is a better player than Waugh, but I think he has more offensive upside as well, and I think we'll be able to judge it a lot more if it does end up being like what you just stated. And, like, for example, they got Stasny earlier on in the season for a third round pick, and then today Nick Blankenberg, very similar players, is traded for a fifth. And it's stuff like that. And that's fair. And I agree with you that he cannot be left. He cannot go away without criticism on the Mangiapane stuff. At the end of the day, that was a guy who was supposed to be a top six, middle six player, whatever you wanted to lead him out to be. And he played a game in the American League yesterday. It was more of he went down there to watch more than anything. But the fact it even got to that point was pretty ridiculous. But I'll lean on the side of optimism on this deal because I just think it's so clear how shit this team was at playing defense. And I said it earlier when you're away. I saw a tweet and it was saying close to 50% of the games this season, the Oilers have allowed 4 or more goals. So I just, the stats like that, it's like, I just feel like these are the players they needed. But if they win the cup, then it won't even matter. But that's obviously a long way down the road.
Yeah, and I mean, let me put it this way, is a Jason Dickinson, Connor Murphy deadline, does that make you, and your answer to this honestly might be yes, now that I'm saying this out loud, does this make you that much more confident going into a series, into the Western Conference Finals against the Colorado Avalanche, into round 2 against the Vegas Golden Knights?
Can you repeat that, sorry?
Having these two players, does it make you that much more confident if you're going into a Western Conference Final against Colorado or a second round series against the Vegas Golden Knights?
Well, I think I was always confident they could go up against Vegas Colorado is obviously still going to be a challenge to overcome. I think that if they can prove over this next little bit, they can form some defense. And I would say, yeah, my confidence would grow on that side of things. But I still think Colorado is the better team. But also, I think they needed to make moves to prove that. And I think they got better. I think they got better these past couple of days for sure.
I think so. Again, they got better. And I love the Connor Murphy trade. I think that was a great piece of business by Stan Bowman. I'm sitting here now. So, like, okay, Dickinson in your lineup. Who do you play him with? Your angle here. Sorry, I'm bugging out because the web daily faceoff is slowing down my browser. If you're trying to build like a defensive sort of third line here, who do you play him with? Is it him and Savoy? Are you then worried that like Matt Savoy also won't be able to produce any offense if he's playing with Jason Dickinson? Like, how does he fit into this lineup in your opinion?
I just move Szymanski down and do the line. That's basically what they did yesterday of being Podkolzin, Dickinson, and then what was it? Was it Frederick Kapanen? Whichever way you kind of want to spin it. One of those two guys on the right wing. And I think what's his name? Knobloch is trying to form that physical defensive identity line. If Frederick is that player or not, that we'll find out. But he's come back and played pretty well. Maybe it will end up just being Kapanen, or maybe they throw someone else on the wing. Who knows how that shapes out? But that's how I suspect they'll probably line up on Friday. How would you do it?
Yeah. I mean, there's a part of me that says Matt Savoy is a wicked smart defensive player.
Yeah.
Maybe that is a duo you explore. How do you feel about Freddie maybe in a role like that? Like if you sit there and go Dickinson, Frederick, Savoy, do you trust them to take super hard matchups at home or on the road? Like maybe, who knows how they view Dickinson? Like they might have a really high opinion of this guy. I'm going right now. I'm really curious to see. I'm going to pull it up on Natural Stat Trick. And again, apologies because we're kind of doing all this stuff on the fly here. I wonder who his most common line mates were with the Hawks this year.
Well, I believe he played the second most minutes by a forward on their penalty kill. Ilya Mikheyev was the only forward ahead of him. Dickinson, I think, played a few less games, though, so I'm sure that factored into it. Played over 2 minutes on the penalty kill. Again, we talked about it with Murphy, and it's the same story. It's the same penalty kill system, best in the NHL. That is a really big positive that they just decided, like, hey, let's just go get the best in that situation.
Yeah, so at 5-on-5, his most common line mates this year were Ilya Mikheyev, Ryan Donato, and Tyler Bertuzzi. So a little bit of a mixed bag there. A guy in Donato who can kind of play everywhere and brings a little bit of offense. Mikheyev's a burner. Bertuzzi's a good player. So again, maybe they have higher aspirations for this guy than we think. Like maybe they really view like if we put two good wingers with this guy, he's going to give us a lot more good than bad. And I'll give you another number that I think they're very, very focused on fixing. Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl. It is a tale as old as time here in Edmonton. When they're off the ice, this team sucks. With both Connor and Leon on the ice at 5-on-5 this year, they're +1. That number also probably isn't good enough, but that's a different conversation we don't need to have right now. But with both Connor and Leon on the ice, they're +1. With just Connor on the ice, they're +2. With Leon on the ice, they're +10. So with one of or both Connor and Leon on the ice, they are +13 this season at 5-on-5. With both of them off the ice, they're -26. They've allowed 62 goals in 62 games played with Connor and Leon off the ice. That's less than half the hockey game, and you're giving up 1 goal per game with those guys off the ice. If you flip that into like the per 60 stat instead of just the total stat, 2.68 goals per 60 with Connor and Leon off the ice. I mean, hey, maybe if you get that number down, you're that much more confident in this team's chances of winning in the playoffs. And another big part of this is you'd need to get goaltending at that point. But
yeah,
I don't know. Again, and I will say, this is a different approach than we've seen them take in the past. Like just going for pure defensive players is not something we've really seen them do.
And I think when they've gone for them in the past, they haven't seemed to have gone for the best ones. Because even Henrique, obviously, they acquired him to be their third line center. But if I'm not mistaken, he was still producing quite significantly, more consistently, when he was on Anaheim. And I think he was even playing on their first unit power play. Like they almost asked him to completely switch his game in a way. They've obviously gone out and got other players like Dmitry Kulikov, for example, but like didn't quite have the impact on it. Someone did put in the chat, where was it? They just mentioned how he scored 22 goals a few years ago. I'll say, well, obviously an impressive season, it's the only time he's scored more than 9 goals in a season. Like, offense isn't coming with this guy, and I don't think it completely dies on his stick by any means. I think he's got some touch. He is a former first-round pick, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, 29th overall by Dallas in 2013. He's not offensive, but if he can stop the other team from being offensive, I'd be quite happy with that.
I'm going to read you his last 5 years of shooting percentages, and you tell me what year is the one where you think he scored 22 goals, all right? Okay. 7.6, 7.6, 7.9, 17.5, 12.5, or 11.5. Which year do you think was the year he managed to pop home 22, Liam?
I wonder. Probably the one that was closest to the amount of goals he scored that season.
Pat, can you flash up the Charlie Romeliitis tweet again? Could you put that? I didn't really read it when you threw it up, but I'm very curious what our friend Charlie had to say. This is, again, Charlie, great Chicago Blackhawks reporter. I gave Jason Dickinson a third-place Selke vote in 23-24. He was dynamite for Chicago that season. When Dickinson was on the ice at 5-on-5, the Blackhawks had a +9 goal differential. When he wasn't on the ice, they had a -95. Holy shit, that's a 104 goal swing over the course of a season. He adds 104 goal difference on a rebuilding team that finished with only 52 points. He drew the toughest competition of any forward on that team too. True third-line shutdown center, top penalty kill. I imagine that's the role he'll play in Edmonton. And then what was the one from Golden Hockey here? Dickinson has the second highest percentage of time on ice versus elite competition in the NHL among forwards. Wow. The Oilers can trust him to be the matchup center, freeing up 97 and 29. This should help them immensely on the ice. So then to go back to that point, Liam, like with Connor McDavid on the ice this year, the Oilers are only like +3 at 5-on-5. Maybe this helps. Maybe they're asking too much out of McDavid defensively.
Maybe even Draisaitl too, right? Like you see it. I feel like we've had conversations in the playoffs where we've talked about like the Oilers shut down line is in their third line. It's Draisaitl's line. And maybe it just helps him have more offensive zone draws. I'm not sure what the numbers would be. That's just off the top of my head. But like it is what we talked about. I can't remember what we spoke about the other day. It was, zone starts. I'm like, why certain players weren't getting as much offensive time? It's like, well, they want these guys back here. And hopefully that number can boost up for those guys because they're obviously not useless in the defensive zone, McDavid and Draisaitl. I don't mean it like that, but like they're more impactful when they're as far away as possible taking draws from your net than the ones right next to it. Yeah. Golden Hockey also said Jason Dickinson is ranked 12th among centers. EV, I'm assuming that's just even defensive. Is that what that means? In the NHL, either way. Yeah, so that seems good. Top 12. So what was Connor Murphy the other day? He was like 3rd or 4th or something in some stats. So like they've got two what you could probably qualify as elite defensive players in certain categories.
Vegas won in overtime, huh?
Wow. We played.
They were down.
Who did they play?
They played Detroit. They were down 2 going into the third and came back. Fuck.
My dad just texted me.
All right, we need to get Tony's opinion on this bad boy.
He said in all caps, bear in mind, he is a Seattle Seahawks fan. Defense wins championships. And that has been a message that has come up a lot in the chat as well, is defensive players. He gets you over the line. And we know Knobloch wants to be like a hardcore defensive coach. I think to get to this point in the season and to see the players that they're bringing in, it's pretty clear to me that I think he might be a bit sick and tired of some of these players that are just not playing that way.
Yeah. Someone asked how's Dickinson in the faceoff circle. 49.5% overall, but he is 53% in the D zone. I generally do not like faceoff percentage as a stat. I think it's very flawed and leaves out a lot of context. So I'm not going to read too much into that. I would imagine there's a certain side in the D zone where he's very, very good, and his number there is probably a lot better. But again, I'd have to do more research into it than that. Man, we got a lot of people in the stream right now, so this is really good. I think we can probably keep it going for a little bit longer.
Sure.
Friday we're probably going to see both these guys in the lineup.
Yeah, we'll see. It looks like Murphy will be alongside Bowman. They did skate together today, but Bouchard and Ekholm did not skate. But yeah, hopefully the Oilers can have a bit of extra jump. And it's like McDavid said when they got Murphy, and I know Mangiapane is a subtraction from this team, but they added without really taking away any significant pieces. And I think that's a real big positive, and that's where I will give Bowman some credit on this. Is like, as much as like we have talked about, like there's just guys here refusing to play a certain style. Hopefully, the guys have brought in can adapt to that. And what have they got now? 24 games left, something around there, 23, whatever it is. I think it's 20. They've played 62 games. It's time. The time is now, and it has to start on Friday. They have to buckle in. Hopefully, the back end there of that Ottawa game where they really did shut it down, that can be the start of something new. But this team has fooled me before.
Pat, if we have the DFO lines for the Oilers up, I'd love to maybe see them here quickly just to get the visual of a few things. Yeah, lots of people in the YouTube chat. Someone said a little bit more cap space. Okay, let's map this out here and hear me out on this maybe a little bit. Let's say you were trying to build the absolute best shutdown third line that you possibly could. I like Draisaitl and Roslovic as a duo. I think that's a strong duo. Keep them together. I would even put Podkolzin up on the left side. Do you have anyone else that you can play with Connor McDavid if your second line is Draisaitl, Podkolzin, and Roslovic? Like I'm angling at how would Dickinson and Ryan Nugent-Hopkins look as a shutdown duo on your third line?
I was thinking that as you started talking then too, because you kind of need Pods of Savoy on that line as well, on that third line. But then you would also need one of them in your top six. Can somehow, some way you get Kapanen up the lineup in that spot? Would that do anything for you? Obviously, like he's played with Draisaitl a lot and he's done well with him this season. So I don't think it would be a bad idea to have Kapanen up if we're trying to build this ultimate defensive lineup.
Okay, so then let me roll this your way. It involves flipping a few guys around left to right side. Hyman, McDavid, Podkolzin, Kapanen, Draisaitl, Roslovic, Nuge, Dickinson, Freddie, and then that leaves a fourth line of Henrique, Szymanski, and who am I missing in my count here? Rico, Szymanski, Lazar, or it's going to be whoever you end up calling up tomorrow. So that'd be Rico, Szymanski, Hudson, or Jarventi.
Yeah. I think it might be more of a Jarventi just because of the style that they might be looking for here. And obviously his cap hit too. A lot of people saying in the chat, Savoy to the top line. Bruce Kurlock was mentioning it. Bruce must have been watching the show earlier today because I said that shit too. I wrote an article about it. I would move Savoy up to the top line if you could.
Savoy's the guy we missed and all that. Apologies. So you would go McDavid. You could go McDavid, Podkolzin, Hyman, Draisaitl, with Roslovic and Savoy and almost keep that together and then go whatever Pods. Yeah.
There's also Dach, Colton Dach as well. Obviously, we forgot about him if you wanted to plug him somewhere. He's going
down to Baco though, right? He's waivers exempt. I saw someone ask about that. So you can slide him right down.
Yeah, you can, which leads me to my next question. Are they done? Or should we order our Bobby McMahon jerseys?
That was going to be my next question. You son of a gun. Liam, I'll be honest. As I'm going through that exercise and I'm rattling off names, I kind of want him to go get a top six winger now. Like if you're doing all this and you're adding these rentals and you're paying big prices for them, like don't you do an extent, just say F it? And if Toronto, like I don't want to trade Ike Howard. I really don't. But if there's a way that maybe Toronto loves one of your other prospects more than you think they do, or Toronto gets to tomorrow at noon and they're like, oh shit, there's not the market we thought there was for Bobby McMahon, I wouldn't close the door on it. Because if you can find someone that, again, you really, really like with McDavid, let's talk about a lineup that's McDavid, McMahon, Hyman, Draisaitl, Podkolzin, Roslovic, Savoy, Dickinson, Nuge, and that's leaving you a fourth line that's, I mean, got some really nice pieces on it here with a Kapanen and a Rico and whoever else you want to put on there. Freddie, I guess, would be on that line. Like, we're talking about a pretty deep forward line. And obviously, listen, this is dependent on guys actually coming and playing well and playing up to their standard, because we obviously have seen this time and time again in this market that guys come in, we have an expectation. We love seeing them on paper on the third or fourth line, and we go, oh my God, if you have that guy playing on your fourth line, how aren't you going to get depth scoring this year? Like, we've done this. year after year after year after year in this market. So that's always the big asterisk and cloud that's looming over this conversation. But if you can add one more piece, listen, they ain't getting Steven Stamkos now. They're out of assets there, buddy. But like if you could add another 5-on-5 driver scorer to put up in that top 6, start to get interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I think the likelihood is obviously low, but I would love them to continue to find another piece if they can. People are questioning what cap they have. So they're currently, we went through it kind of off the start, but maybe we can do it again, Pat, if you want to pull up that little thing you had from Puckpedia before. They're minus 300,000 under the cap, but they can put Lazar on LTIR. What's he, 900,000?
Yeah.
So even just Lazar, putting him on LTIR will give you enough room to get Bobby McMahon with some retention. However, they can just send down Colton Dach as well, and still, or Szymanski, either one of them, they're both waiver eligible. And then that gives them just over $1 million in cap space. Like, they're not completely out of this yet, and there is room to make something work here if they wanted to. If it's McMahon, if it's another piece, maybe it's just another kind of fourth line guy. They want to bring him a little extra depth. Like, it's not done yet, I don't think. I suspect they'll still be going. I mean, Jeff Merrick did talk about how he thinks the Oilers could be the talk of the town when comes Friday, when we're all said and done. To me, that would mean that they make one more trade.
So I'm just looking at the cap picture right now. You're right. They're currently 300 grand in the negatives. If you put Lazar on LTIR, you're now about 475K in the positives on this deal. If you send down Colton Dach, you're now about 1.2 million in the positives. And then if you were to make another trade, you could also send down Szymanski and be running a 12 forward lineup. So they could go as high as 2.1 million for a guy.
And they obviously won't send down Stasny, but just for people who know, they do currently have 7 defensemen on the roster. So if push came to shove, they could just go on 11-7 for a few games if injuries overcame them. And even if with that, if I'm not mistaken, they probably still have room to activate Lazar if because they could just send down Szymanski. If one, there would still be an avenue that Lazar might not necessarily be out for the season, but also too, if he's out for 4 weeks, which would take us obviously to early April, there's only about 2 weeks left in the regular season. I wonder if his shoulder just, gets a little bit more sore around early April for a couple more weeks.
I think it's pretty easy to make that kind of stuff happen.
Yeah.
So I'm just kind of scrolling through some trade boards here to think of like guys at 50% retained who you could kind of fit in. I think Michael Bunting's a touch too expensive to make the numbers work. But that's the kind of guy where, like, again, I'm looking here, honestly, maybe even not so much as just like a bona fide top 6 guy. Maybe it's someone you're just, for less of a better, don't want to dart at. So 475 plus that is 1.3, you're at 2.275. Oh, I think you actually might be able to take a guy like Bunting and get him at 50% retained. So again, maybe there's a deal like that where, like, again, is Nashville going to have a harder time moving a Bunting than they think? Is there another seller who's going to be sitting on someone and they're a UFA and come trade deadline tomorrow, they call Stan Bowman and say, all right, I'm not getting bites. Give me Quinn Hudson and you can have this guy.
Mm-hmm. I think one thing would be good to go through, Pat, if you don't mind pulling this up here shortly, what assets they have left to spend. Obviously, so far they've traded their first round pick for these 2 years, the Wallman one from last year. I think they have a second round pick still, though, no? For next season?
They have their second and third rounder this year, and I believe their second and third rounders the next year. I'll pull up Puckpedia here and let people know. Okay, so they have a second and third rounder this year, and then they don't pick again until the 6th and 7th rounds. Next year, it's just their second. Then they pick twice in the 5th round, then the 6th and 7th. 2028, it's their first, and then they have 2 third rounders that year because they have one from St. Louis, and then every pick after that. 2029, it's their first, no second. That was dealt in the Jari deal, and every pick after that. So again, like, they could trade their second rounder this year and a prospect and see what that gets them.
That's the other side of it too. They have not traded any prospects. They have. Everyone's there. Everyone's there. I think that's one thing that should also be pointing us. They've not had to throw some random guy in to get these deals over the line. The random guy was obviously Mangiapane, and that's kind of why. But they kind of added in that regard as well, which I think should be appreciated.
Well, we talk about good pro scouting and good amateur scouting, being able to unearth these guys. I was having this conversation today with Gregor where, like, hey, if there's a team out there who views Quinn Hudson at the same value of a second-round pick, you signed that guy for nothing a year ago. He's found money. And you know what's kind of funny? He's a year, I think more than a year older than Colton Dach.
Yeah, he is. I said before with Menzies, because I just got the wrong Dach. I've been saying Kirby. I should have said Colton all this time. I think he's only Kirby Dach's only a year older than Quinn Hudson, if I'm not mistaken. Kirby Dach's 25.
Yeah.
Like Quinn Hudson, and it seems like we really go at this guy, and trust me, it's not like that at all. We think he's a good player, but he's an older prospect, and you don't know how much you're really going to get out of him. So if you can throw him in a deal, like you said, if there's not much to it, like you've already got a guy, I think you should trust that you're able to go get more guys. Bowman stated the other day that he thinks he might be able to get a couple of European players again. Obviously, they got Szymanski last year, Modular, Leppinen still on the team. Not a prospect, but he came from that. Tomasek, of course, too. The only one that looks like a failed project. If you're hitting 3 out of 4, that's pretty solid. One name that keeps coming up in the sorry, go. You say your thought, and we'll move on.
I was just gonna say, like, you also don't need 10 of these guys. Like, if you're the Oilers, you know Connor and Leon are locked and loaded 1 and 2 for till the end of time. Okay, if you think Szymanski is better than Quinn Hudson, you don't need them both, right? You have Ike Howard, you have Roby Jarventi, they love Marhala. Like, you have these other 3 guys. Okay, maybe you don't trade the wingers. Maybe you keep Szymanski. But I think Quinn Hudson's a guy who you look at and go, you know what? If another team likes him and we can make another upgrade with him and a second-round pick or him and Bo Akey, you do it. Because that's the other thing on the blue line, too. Like, your blue line's pretty locked in at this point. You don't need Bo Akey. So I'd be dangling the Akeys and the Hudsons, guys who are maybe still considered good prospects, but are not in your personal favorites if you're Stan Bowman, if that makes sense.
2 things. My apologies to the Tomasek fan club. He was an Olympian. I was wrong. Quinn Hudson went to the Toronto Maple Leafs development camp before he signed with the Edmonton Oilers. An interesting layer in this as well. Something to maybe think about. So there's a name being mentioned in the chat a little bit, basically based off cap idea. And Gregor mentioned him too. I don't know if he mentioned it to you. Would you have any interest in AJ Greer?
I think if I make another move, if I'm Bowman, it has to be a guy who has a chance to play out my lineup. I think now your bottom 6 is getting kind of full, isn't it?
Yeah, that's a good point. Greer, I think he's a 7.75 player. So again, 50% retained. What's that really costing you? A 4th round pick? One of those extra thirds, perhaps? I don't know. He's been impactful. We've seen it firsthand. There you go. Thanks, Pat. And maybe you're running a bit too thin to just be wasting late round picks on someone like AJ Greer, but I think Florida proved that someone like him can play a role on your team still. And he's also got some good speed.
Yeah. Okay, maybe I actually wouldn't mind another guy. Like, I'm just thinking, okay, maybe you don't trust Szymanski as an everyday player in the playoffs. Yeah. And we were just talking about building lines with identity. How does a Rico, Freddie, Greer 4th line sound to you? It's kind of like, no, I could see the role they'd play.
I would almost have Lazar on that line. Sure. Either way, like Rico. Similar style of player, but just like I feel like Lazar can find that in him. I thought Gregor made it. I listened to Jason Gregor today, by the way, if none of you knew. Lazar 61% in the faceoff dot in the defensive zone this year, which is a stat I didn't really know. And I think he will be missed a little bit more on this little run. I don't think Lazar is anything special by any means, but he's proven to find a role on this team.
You know who I think I'm starting to come onto your side in a debate we had the other day?
Stamkos?
Go back one more day.
Dach?
Perry.
Yes.
I
$1
think I
million
can
bucks for Corey Perry.
I think I can kind of start to squint and be like again, I'm sitting here being like, is there another guy you could play with Connor McDavid? Uh-huh. If he's not in your top 6, could you just plop him lower in the lineup? Yeah, probably. Maybe that's a guy who, and Kenny Holland is a famous, will do right by a veteran kind of GM. Maybe they get right to the deadline on Friday and Ken calls him and says, hey, the Oilers are offering me a 5th round pick for you. Do you want to go? And Perry says, let me run it back with those boys.
I would take him back, and I said it the other day. I know in a heartbeat I would, and I think now, like, we just went through the exercise of who's playing where, kind of defensive players. I mean, he has 11 goals this season, and I think that's quite impressive for someone like him. He's someone who just continues to find a way and keeps his body in really good shape. He's always said, he's like, I will play until I literally cannot. So again, the Oilers, it was not like they were playing him for long periods last season in the playoffs, like 12, 13 minutes in a game, obviously spending some time on the power play. He literally moved Zach Hyman off the power play with how well he was playing. If you get him for cheap, why not? Why would you not add someone like that to your room?
And I know Lance is having some fun with me in the chat about talking myself into liking this deal without saying it. I'm just reading like some NHL Sid stuff, and I know Bruce Kurlock likes this deal and all of that stuff. Again, my problem with this is not that it's very similar to like my feelings almost on the Jari deal at the time, where it was like, okay, did I hate the Jari deal at the moment? No, but I was someone who was putting up my hand being like, hello, this is a gross use of assets. Like, the fact we're in this situation, why didn't you try Ingram first? Like, all of these problems, bad use of assets, even if you don't mind the player you're getting back in a vacuum. And that's, again, I think maybe like my final take on this Dickinson deal is like, do I like the player? Yes. Do I think the player helps you win? Yes. Do I like the fact that Andrew Mangiapane, 6 months after they signed him to a 2-year deal, became such a negative asset that you had to trade a 1st-round pick for Jason Dickinson? No, I do not like that deal. That's what I don't like about it.
And I think that's fair. I think that's fair. What I will say is, and why I'll probably keep my grade on it like fairly well, whatever I said, B-, C+. I guess C+ was a whole season. I think this is just a necessary ad, and I think they did good to get a player like Dach who's got some upside. Again, you mentioned it, like, I don't think he's going to be Podkolzin by any means, but
no.
The 1st-round picks to me, whatever. The scouting staff has proven they can draft players later on. The others 2 players that were at the World Juniors this year, granted one of them was German, they don't have many players, was a 4th-round pick, and whatever Asher Barnett was 5th or 6th, whatever it ended up being. Like, they've proven they can find players out there, which I think is a strength of the organization right now. So I'm good with it. They got a 3rd-line center today, who by most metrics is regarded as one of the better ones in the NHL. It's a place of desperate need. And then just, I guess, on top of that too, they are what could be a potential top 4 defenseman or a spot top 4 defenseman, however you want to judge him. They should help the penalty kill. That should reduce some goals against. Everyone else has to buy into this defensive idea, though, and that's how this Oilers team will be judged, not necessarily by the ads, but how the players within the organization now react to the additions.
Colton Dach, I just saw this number. Amongst NHL players who've played in at least 50 games this year, so we're calling those like regular players this season, 6th in hits per 60. He's a bowling ball.
He's Josh Archibald.
Hey, laugh all you want. I'll take a guy like that on my 4th line if he can learn to score.
I mean, we just mentioned AJ Greer and how he can play a role. I think Dach is fine. He's 6'2", 6'3", whatever he is, 200 plus. Like, he's not a nothing. He's not a nothing burger. I know some people are pointing out there like his goals for percentage and all that. It's like, sure, like, whatever. I think he's a kid trying to adapt to the to a role that the organization is putting him in, and I think that's fine. D White puts in the chat, always very smart with his comments, smart ass with his comments. Sorry. Scouting and drafting is a strength of the Oilers. I think I've heard enough. What are you talking about? Look at this team this season. Matt Savoy has had a great run right here. In the American League, the players Hudson, Howard are doing very well. Boakey has essentially turned around what looked like to be an absolute useless pick into what is looking like a really solid player. Damian California. They're literally playing what's his name? Josh Szymanski as a third line center, and he's doing well. He went to the Olympics, for crying out loud. Like, it's clearly a strength, and you clearly do not watch these games because every single day you comment that Darnell Nurse is the Oilers' best left shot defenseman. They literally have 3 other players in the NHL who are better than him. Please, enough, D. Like, thanks for watching, but you need to just settle down for the evening because enough is enough. You're so negative. It's so frustrating. I'm good.
You good? You got it out, got it all out of your system there?
Well, it's just
how much longer you want to?
Like, every single day, it's just annoying. Like, everyone else is trying to find the positives and be productive, and he just leaves the same crap every single day, and it's just annoying.
Lance says, Tyler, have we considered playing Dickinson at defense and Nurse at forward?
They could play. Hey, we're talking about a defensive line. Can Darnell Nurse find a way to be a forward on that trio? We're looking for a left winger. He definitely can skate well enough.
Yep. Again, I don't love the deal. It could work out. I'm reading a little bit more. There's some people that like Colton Dach. We'll see. We shall see.
I'm not too bothered on him. Which one?
Big Head Hockey. They tweeted out all the draft picks that the Oilers have traded away in the last 5 years. And then they went and they said, these were the players that they traded away because of those picks. And they're like, Brock Faber, Lane Hudson.
No, they didn't. They traded those picks and then those teams drafted them. For goodness sake. It's like when a player goes in the 7th. It's like when a player goes in the 6th or 7th round, like Kaprizov. Everyone passed on him. It's like, no, because nobody knew he was gonna come play. Like, everyone thought he was gonna stay in Russia. Like, it's just so frustrating. It's just for clicks. These damn kids.
So Sarah Volley says the math is hard, but believe the trades for Murphy Dickinson leave Oilers with right around $500K in cap space to play with ahead of Friday. And again, could send down Dach, could send down Szymanski and get just north of 2. Could send down Savoy, but that would leave them a man short. They'd have to replace his spot on the roster, so it doesn't actually do much. And also, Matt Savoy's playing really good. So, anyways, right around the $2 million mark, Frank says he wouldn't be surprised. He wouldn't be shocked if the Oilers wouldn't shock if Oiler done shopping. Oh, he's saying they might be done. Okay. But he also said the asking price for Nicholas Roy is a first and a prospect. That's fucking hilarious. There's no way they're getting that, right?
Does that not make you feel better? I know we talked about it. That makes me feel better about the Dickinson trade because he is better than Nicholas Waugh.
Let's see what Nicholas Waugh ends up going for, though.
Yeah, then that's fair too. I don't see why they would want to hold on to him. Do you know the other player actually in Toronto that the Oilers should probably still have interest in? Scott Lawton's 50% retained is still $750,000. Like, that's still
he'll go for a first, though. He'll go for first.
Yeah, that's true. That is a first, unless. Yeah, it probably is a first. I was going to say maybe you can send him a high-end prospect. I think I'm more willing to find out if that first-round pick can become anything than say that I traded Ike Howard and then he became this great player, and we got Scott Lawton for 5 months.
Yeah. B. Congdon kept asking. He's commented a few times. Would you sign these guys to extensions? Whoa, 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 whoa. Let's watch them play first.
Would I do it though? Yes. I think we'll wait and see. Obviously, they got to play some games. Is Colton Dach? I don't even know how long is left on his contract, to be honest. But I think the Oilers, if things go positively, I said this on our earlier show. If you haven't watched this before, we do go live noon to 1:30 right here on the Oilersnation YouTube, Monday to Friday. I think the Oilers might want to sit on some guys this summer in the sense of if things go well, they don't want to change too much. I think they've changed a lot over these past 2 seasons, and quite frankly, it's not gone well for them at all. Like the only real positives from just a forward group would be like Podkolzin and Rozovic as 2 impact players. Savoy too, I guess you could say. But I think they want to find more wins. And if Dickinson does well, Murphy does well, they might want to keep Rozovic. I could see this roster, and only if things go well, being very similar to what it is next season.
Okay, we're going to wrap this up in a couple of minutes, but we'll give everyone, this will be last call if you want to get some questions in for us. If you have any last minute questions about the trade deadline, the Oilers, whatever, drop them in there. Colton Dach is an RFA at the end of the year with no arb rights, Liam.
Okay. That's good, so, right? No arb rights is good?
Yeah, I mean, you can basically just qualify him for $900K and then be like, you should take a 2-year deal. Like, it's easy enough.
Okay, nice. But I'll ask you a question. I mentioned it a little bit earlier. Oh, there you go. Mike D. Oh, there was a couple of super chats. Sorry, there was one earlier as well. I should have read. Thank you for your donations to our super chat. All the proceeds go to the Ben Stelter Foundation. This one came in a long time ago. I'm very sorry for not doing it. Matt Savoy just put in $7. He might have put a comment behind it. Sorry, I didn't see the comment. He put it in here. Screwed up. Everyday listener. Usually don't get to join on in the chat. Like everyone, I'm not a huge fan of giving up a first for this, but there is no doubt we got better defensively and on the penalty kill. I think that's fair. I think everyone's gonna, like you are, Tyler, like on the fence with the first round pick, but there's no denying the impact that Dickinson should have on this lineup. Second one.
I'll go ahead.
You go ahead. Okay, I'll go ahead.
Mike D.
There's one above Mike D.
Okay, you do that.
Ethan Cook, $5. Thank you, Ethan. First, to clean up the offseason signing, PK and defense help is nice, I suppose. But how much savings if we want to re-sign these players in the summer? I guess that's a question for later. I really don't know how much Dickinson's going to... The cost to try and figure out players right now seems so obscure because of the cap going up. I think Dickinson's might come down a little bit, to be honest. And same with Murphy. I don't think they'll be quite as high, especially if the others do well. They might want to stay. Last one, it just says Mike D, 279, says, let's not forget Brandon Carlo also cost a first. And then one just came in, whatever your name is, $2. Thank you. Any decent goalie options at this point? Ingram and Jari should be good options, hopefully, and Calvin Pickett plays in Bakersfield.
Yeah. The one about Brandon Carlo cost a first. He cost a first and Fraser Minton, but he came with term. But now we've seen that blow up in their face because Toronto can't move him. So on the extension side of things, I actually think both these guys would probably get pretty close to. I think Dickinson this summer would probably get like a 3x3 because teams love his defense. And I bet you Murphy gets another 4x4, another 4x5. Like if Cody Cece's still getting tickets at his price tag, Connor Murphy's still get a contract.
But we need to see who else offered Cody Cece a contract. Or was it just Ken Holland went in, no negotiation? Here's your money, Cody. Come back to me, baby. Maybe.
Hey, I'm going to rapid fire through a couple of questions that got thrown in. Need your opinion. This one from Blecker. Need your opinion. Is Bobrovsky or Binnington a possibility? No. This isn't even really opinion. This is fact. They are not shopping in the expensive goalie market over the next couple of days. Clutch said, if the Oilers don't trade Wallman, we're stuck with another D-man who has no hands with an NTC. I think you got to let Jake Wallman play out of this slump here a little bit. I'm not super worried about that. What would it take to get Kadri from my friend Joe? Way too much for the Edmonton Oilers, and I also don't think Kadri would waive to come here. McDoust, what are your thoughts on Giroux? Very similar to Corey Perry, where like if Claude Giroux tells the Senators on Friday, I want to go to a contender, one, I feel like he probably ends up in like a Minnesota or some shit like that. But that's when maybe you can make a call. But there's enough other contenders out there who need centers that I wouldn't hold your breath on him being an Oiler. Ty Trimble, McMahon potential return. Looking at a first-round pick based on the way things are going. Joe says, what would it take to get Besser? That's a name I actually think might move in the next 24 to 36 hours here. But I don't think the Oilers have the money for that, unfortunately. I know the Oilers don't have the money. That's a summertime thing if you want to discuss it, Liam.
Besser was almost an Oiler. it was to the point where we were in the office and someone was telling us that, hey, start writing some articles here. And then there was literally a flip in his mind by the sounds of it from the communication center words that he just chose Vancouver out just kind of out of nowhere all of a sudden. And I'm sure he was regretting that decision heavily.
Couple more here. What is Colton Dach worth? I mean, he's worth throwing into the contract and taking a stab on because you can put him right through waivers. And again, his cap hit isn't on the books. If you're able to keep Roslovic due to this trade from Wise Kyle, will you rate it higher? What does that have to do with? Maybe because you got out of Mangiapane's money. So sure. Again, losing Mangiapane's money for next year is good. But again, it's an asset management problem. I'm not giving Stan Bowman credit for getting out of a dog shit contract that he signed. I'm not going to do that. Will there be a new goalie by Friday? No, they absolutely can go into the playoffs with this tandem. And these moves are showing us that, Liam. They know they aren't upgrading their goalies. They don't want to upgrade their goalies. They're going to fix the problem in front of them. And if you think there's not a problem in front of these two goalies, you're totally out to lunch.
I agreed. I'm sure, honestly, I bet Jari has come up in some conversations, to be honest, and Ingram to an extent too. But like, you're just selling low on these guys right now, and the frustration is obviously why it's obvious why people are so frustrated with them. But the team needs to play better in front of them. Like, if you want to go back a couple episodes ago, what was that? Steve Peters joined us. Was it yesterday? He had a really good breakdown in his segment of just like what's been happening in front of these goalies, and the clips he shows are just from the last 10 games, and it was damning.
Yeah. Okie dokie. This is a great question for us to end the stream on, Liam, because we both have to work again tomorrow, so we can probably get on with our lives. Cake or not cake, the Oilers are done.
Not cake.
You think we're getting another move?
I think we've got one more. There's too much cap space for there not to be one more.
That's where I'm at too. I'm like, son of a bitch. They're not just gonna let this money sit off to the side and not do anything with it.
You can't. It doesn't roll over.
Liam, appreciate you firing this up while I finished up my curling practice. That was very nice of you. Thank you to Michael Menzies. Pat Puff producing behind the scenes, nailed it. But thank you, boys.
Yeah, this was good. Appreciate everyone watching along. Great audience this evening. Even though I yelled at you, D, I do appreciate you, and I'll unmute you from the chat by the time tomorrow's show starts, and we can move on with our lives.
We got one more super chat from It's Clutch. Could Wallman have been benched to trade for OEL? Wallman is back on the ice today. He was very clearly benched. That became apparent. But they're not trading Wallman for Oliver Ekman-Larsson. I just think there's no way.
Just before we wrap, because I think some people just joined again, the Oilers do have a little bit of cap. We did some math. They can put Lazon, LTIR, and then that gives them a bit more. They can also send down Colton Dach. If they get another guy, they can then send down Szymanski, and it all kind of works out. So they could have maybe $1 million. At the fewest, 500,000, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. So 400. If they decide to run with just 12 forwards and they send down Dach and Szymanski, they have just over $2 million that they can play with. It's doable, folks. You can do some damage with that money. Give me Michael Bunting, 50% retained. Who?
Lawton and Bobby McMahon.
But then you got to waive someone.
No, you don't. Send down Szymanski and Dach.
But then, oh yeah, you're running 13 forwards. Okay, no. All right, Liam, good stuff.
Yeah, this was great. Thanks everyone for tuning in.
Yeah. Any out of town scoreboard updates? Islanders, Ducks are tied 1-1. Blues and Kraken are tied 1-1. So we're gonna let everybody go for the night. There's a couple hockey games that have standings implications for the Edmonton Oilers. No game tomorrow, but we have a fresh episode of Oilers Nation every day coming your way. New episode of Daily Face Off live tomorrow, 10 a.m. Mountain with myself, Carter Hutton, and David Pagnotta. He'll be swinging by, so plenty to get to. We got Matt Larkin swinging by tomorrow. And I'm going to fire off a couple of text messages here and maybe line us up 2 more guests, Liam, since we won't really want to just talk about the Dickinson trade again for an hour.
For tomorrow?
Yeah, for tomorrow.
We're going to have 4 guests tomorrow?
Maybe 3. Pagnotta's on DFO Live. We have Larkin on ours. And I'll try to get 2 more.
Okay. Sounds good to me.
Okay. All right, Pat Puff, thanks for doing this and staying up late with the boys. I'm just kidding. It's 8:40. I'm surprised he doesn't have volleyball, actually. We might be holding him up. But that's a wrap on today's tonight's edition. Why?
Never forget. Someone asked.
Okay, we're ending it. See you, everybody. God save the Queen. What's up, Nation citizens? If you enjoyed today's episode of Oilers Nation Every Day, make sure you hit the subscribe button here on our YouTube to not miss any of our content. We got you covered from interviews, insight, analysis, everything you need to stay up to date on everything around the team. Hit that subscribe button so you don't miss a video.